is an author. This is his book, The Future of Banking, in Italian and English. And he has been a very important champion of Glass-Steagall and other kinds of bank sanity in Europe, and an important collaborator of Mr. LaRouche. So I think I will let you go ahead and say, tell us what you have to tell us.
During the past 70 years, we have experienced four kinds of capitalism. And you have new just the capitalism as form of economic organization at the moment, because the other forms have been suppressed. And the first one ran between Bretton Woods Agreement, 1944, to G7G of Tokyo in 1979. This first kind of capitalism has run for 35 years. And this demonstrates that it is sustainable. We'll see that the other three kinds have endured very less and are not so sustainable. The basis of this first kind of capitalism is the Cambridge Golden Rule. It means that the gains on productivity must be shared between three social actors. First, the workers that become middle class. The state by tax that could improve the expenses in education, health, and public transportation. And the owners, of course, are the perceptor of profits. The role of the state is very important because if the state could and can spend for services, public services, the middle class and the whole population have more resources to spend in consumption. The failure of the policies of Bush in the last times was because he thought that reducing tax, that is meaning to reduce expenses, would be useful for the recovery. But the economy doesn't work so, because the reduction of tax is unuseful for people who don't pay tax, the poor, of course. On the middle class, it's true that they have had some thousand of less tax, but they have to, the middle class have to pay more than they received by the reduction, because the reduction of the social and state and government and federal and so on expenses on education, health, and transportation bring the middle class to become poorer. And for the rich section of the population, they are rich. It means that they have all they want as consumption. If you give them some $100,000 of less tax, they don't buy another car or they don't eat more, because they have what they want. But they have to invest. Yes, but if there is not recovery, they invest on financial markets, not on the real estate, and so the failure of the Bush strategies, and these put Obama on the head of the country, of our country, of your country, but perhaps it would be better if the Clinton, if the Hillary Clinton won the selection of the primary election. Come back to 35 years of development of sustainable capitalism, and the owners was not so happy of the situation, but they had the chance to see the improvement of their property, of their firms, because the economy was expanding, was growing, so the value of the enterprises grew. But the rate of profits, net rate of profits for them was slow, and they are not happy. And the role they had into the society, into the enterprises, was poor. And so they thought to have a revincita, to come back on the anthology. And they organized for this. The first thing was, after the Nixon declaration of the 1971, that do not convert the dollars into gold, that is very important for the development of banking, because it is the finish of the story of the link between gold and money.
Yeah, gold and money.
But because the technological capacity of the humanity from the 70s, differently in all the history of the banking before, was that we became able to produce all we need differently by the past. The money was ineffective on the inflation rate. So this was meaning on the other side that it was possible to develop the consumption, the banking, the population with endless limits and without limits. And well, the first reaction was by ecologist movement to say that the limit, if weren't in the money or in the financial means, would be on the real physics resource of the planet. They used an equation, linear equation, that if the growth will be, I'm speaking about the 70s, will be for India, for China, like United States or Europe, the planet wasn't able to survive, to sustain. This is wrong, because the equation demonstrating the development is not linear, but it's complex. So when we grow in industry, in consumption, in civilization, we grow in the technological capacity to reduce the quantity of resources and the pollution for unity of production. So if we travel like a century ago, we inquinate a lot the world, but we have changed. The new cars are better than the old. Perhaps in the future, if we don't stop the growth, we travel differently with less pollution, no more pollution, because we travel. So this was the first attempt to exit by this kind of capitalism that was sustainable. The second is political, because the growth of the middle class, the transformation of the working class in the middle class, bring the democracy to a growth, and this is a menace for the oligarchies. This is the second reason to change. The third, that the interest rates were small, and so helped the development. And the yield, the profits by the productive activity was not so high, and owners were not satisfied by the situation. So the banks begin to pay deposits and to pay currencies, and this put all the financial structure in to height, to grow. The fourth and most important aspect was linked to the international commerce, and because during the 1944 agreement was clear that a country weak must be helped to have more exportation and to reduce the importation. So a country strong must help appreciate his currency to offer the possibility to the weak to devaluate their currency, and so export more and import less. This is because the balance of the international trade was correct, in the case was cleared, and was incorrect both if the importation were more than the exportation, and the exportation were more than importation. This is the philosophy of the Western world till 1979. In this situation, the market was a mean to obtain a good economy, and after 1979, the problem has been that the market became the god omnipotent to resolve everything. But the market is disequilibrator, is not an equilibrator one. We need the market, but because it serves the economy, if not the main purpose of this. And till 1979, till the Tokyo G7, the relationship between among the countries was based on solidarity, because there was a disequilibrium if one country of Western world, in this example, because there is the communism is other question, and it was not good if one country, because weak, was in a disequilibrium, and the other countries could help. After 1979 was decided that every country must go by itself. This is the most important thing, is the abandon of the Bretton Woods agreement at all. And the world changed. By the 80s, the world changed because the solidarity wasn't more seen like an important strength of the economy, but a thing of the past. Well, we have had this second kind of capitalism between 1980 and 1992. Was a period of very high interest rates. So we have had the crowding out of real physical investment because the bond yields was more on financial bonds. The yield was more than the rate of profits on real investment. So proprietors and owners who come back in the society and in the firms to be the main figures as cultural and strategic indication could choose the financial side because was enough profitable and could leave the real investment. But this is not the same thing for working and middle class.
That was Paul Volcker in the US who let the interest rates go to like 17%.
Yes,
something.
yes. Because the workers can invest their resources only on the real economy or become unemployed. This is the difference. The way because the state, the government could protect the labor force is not moral. It's because the other classes could choose if invest their resources on financial or on a real market. Instead, the working class could invest only on the real investment, and if they can't, they become unemployed. Oh. This period, this second period, with very high interest rates, survived only 12 years, and this demonstrates that is not sustainable system. He crashed because the strong countries become stronger and the weak countries become weaker. This is the proof of the not sustainable situation. And in 1992 will be the crash of the European monetary system and the reduction of the interest rates, very dramatic reduction in a few months of the interest rates to the historical average. But the unemployment situation during the 80s caused a reduction on wages and salaries about of the 40%. 40% reduction. And this caused the crisis at that time, at the beginning of the 90s. If bank system didn't lend money to families to go into the stock market, and with the stock market gain, pay the interest to the bank, and the difference between the revenues, the familiar revenues, and the level of consumption. So the level of consumption during the 90s remained stable because the bank make this effort. Well, when the interest rates, the bond interest rates dropped, the institutional investors, pension fund, abandoned the bonds and bought stocks.
Stocks.
But because they were very big, they buy the control package, and they said to the management, you have to arrive around the rate of profit this year of the 7%. Why 7? Because 7% real is the bond yield with less inflation, was that of the benchmark, world benchmark, that were the Italian bonds. That my country has been destroyed during the 80s for the very high interest rate, and our public debt is dramatically growth during the 80s because the monetary authorities wanted to grow the interest rate, and I struggled with them in that period. I was an officer of very argument every day with my ministers and the governor of the Bank of Italy. And well, the pension funds and institutional investors after 1992 wanted the 7% because they had the bargain impegno with their subscribers, that was the workers too, to evaluate their saving at the rate of 7%. Well, into the innovative industries, the 7%, the rate of profit of 7% is not so difficult. No problem. But in the 80% of the economy, the traditional normal industry, services and so on, is impossible this rate of profit. So the management was forced to obtain that result, reducing the working force more than the production output. This was the way, because during the 90s the unemployment continued to rise. Because the way to obtain the 7% of the profit was to reduce employment more than to reduce the production. Because in that time we have the globalization, so if we had the need of products, we import. But we hide the unemployment, the unemployment, of course. But the consequence of this important changement in the 1992 and 90s was ethic, because till 1992 the profit, the net profit, was the result of risk. The owner put their money, paid tax, paid cost, paid workers, and after they have their profit. In this kind of capitalism, this third kind of capitalism, the risk was put into the society, on the families, on the working people, on the state. This is the change, is a moral change. Yeah. In the 80s, we abandoned the solidarity. In the 90s, we abandoned the connection between a gain and the risk or the effort to obtain money. So we have had a very destruction of our moral behaviors. This third kind of capitalism, who had as a goal the yield on stock markets,
Stock market yield.
during till the beginning of summer 2001. Note is 2-3 months before the tremendous terroristic attack to the Twin Towers, the September 11th. Is not because sometimes it's because after the attention of September 11 the economies changed. No, it was changed 2-3 months before. This third kind of capitalism has been very tragic for the social and the real economy. Destructive. Oh. And after 2001, we have had to present the fourth kind of capitalism. To understand what was happening, we have come back at the 90s, when this is a very important thing. Banks obtain the abandon of the Glass-Steagall rule. Till that period, and from the 30s, we have had 65 years without banking or financial crisis,
Yes.
because all one bank make credit, or is another bank, another situation makes financial hazardous. Now they come back to the universal bank, like before the 30s, that brought to the crisis of the 18th and 19th centuries. When the crisis started in the 2001, yes, the bank itself had arranged bargain with their customer and sell items, bonds,
Yes,
stock
other stocks.
of themselves. And they promised an high yield. Because after the beginning of the crisis and after the attempted of the 11/9, the big economist, Nobel Prize, Center of Research, very important people said that next trimester, next semester, next year will be the recovery. Is sure. The bank make derivatives, and people wait for this miracle because nobody explained how, why there will be the recovery. I have an idea how have the recovery. If the state spent more on services, investment, infrastructure, research, and so on, it's possible to have the recovery. If not. This is very simple, as like I tempted to explain on the tax and strategies of the reduction of taxes of Bush and so on. And well, in trimester and trimester, month and month, year in year, in 13 years of this thing, banks produces $800,000 billion of derivatives. And because it was impossible to come back, because there wasn't the recovery, they produce 3.2 million of billion, it has 4 quadrillion summarizing the 800,000 billion of derivatives and the 3.2 billion dollars of toxic items, is 55 times the whole gross domestic product of the world. That is around only 72,000 billion dollars. This is a big highway to the bankruptcy of course. Well, how this fourth kind of capitalism has like goal not to obtain the maximum yield on stock market, like the third one, but to maximize the number of title, bond, toxic assets. So they don't need to have, for example, a good country, a good debtor that will pay at the moment, but the bad, because the bad with the bad, what is the name of the subprime is good. The subprime, they want the subprime. They don't want a family who pay the mortgage. No, they want a family that is unable to pay, because they have to sell the credit, and another who buy the credit know that the credit is nothing, and to sell and to sell and to sell and to sell, because their gain is on the operation of selling, not on the revenue of the title. No, and they gain 50, 60 billion million dollar, the CEO, the super manager, and so on, and they escape in the fiscal paradise like Virgin Islands after 2-3 years, and we are here to make conference. Well, how we could exit by this situation? The first thing is to come back to Glass-Steagall regulation. If not, we are talking of nothing. Second is to arrange a new Bretton Woods. It's possible an agreement among United States, China, India, and Russia. If this is not possible, I think the third solution, possibility, chance, is the BRICS. I mean, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, but a lot of other countries emerging, that they look at the real investment, they invest in infrastructures, they make more things on research, space exploration, and so on. What we need to recover really the economy. And the ultimate consideration is about the Europe. Europe is out of the world at the moment, because work to maintain the not sustainable economic models, instead to work to understand how is a good economic model, like I said before. So, for example, at the last European elections, the majority, in different way, wanted to escape by the austerity. But they want to maintain the euro and the same rules. This is impossible, because euro has been for austerity, and austerity for euro. And these rules and all the euro bureaucracy has been held for this aim to maintain in a situation of artificial scarcity the population. If you want to escape, you must change. Thank you.
happy to take questions. We can think about. I mean, one thing I was thinking of this period between 1972 and 1979 that you mentioned. And you mentioned earlier the ecologist or the environmentalist movement, because it was in 1975 that Henry Kissinger authorized this document, NSSM 200, that said population growth in poor countries is a national security threat, and therefore it's in our interest to withhold food, sterilize people, use things as a weapon to reduce the population.
Yeah.
So it was exactly in this period that you were saying, from 70 to 79, that they did this. And I also am thinking, you know, the stories we've been told, for example, about, well, the reason we had the mortgage crisis was because the government decided that everybody should be able to have a home, whether they could pay or not. But actually what you're saying is that wasn't the reason. The reason was they wanted to make up all these mortgages, and they needed people to not be able to pay them, because that was the way they would keep the bubble inflated. So, you know, what people have been told about the causes of this really isn't true. It doesn't get to the intent of the oligarchy. I don't know if you have more on how that works.
Well, the question has two sides. One side is the population growth, and the law of Malthus is based on a linear equation that was correct for that time. The things change when the humanity, the mankind, is able, throughout good technology, to intervene on the linear sequence, so to reduce the quantity of resources, work, natural, and reduce pollution for unity of product. And well, more the growth is, and more the reduction of pollution is, paradoxical.
Right.
And I made two examples, Italy and Congo. Okay, Italy before the 60s till the 50s was like a condition of the population, a poor country. Was industrialized, technical, scientific, poetic, creative people, and so on. But we were poor. It was difficult to assure both lunch and dinner the family. Very difficult till the 50s. After we grow, we have more salaries, more wages, and so on. And we reduce the demographic effort, because a poor population tends to make more sons and reach to refrain. In Congo, there is a situation that perhaps the worst of the world. There is they haven't. For example, a family haven't $8 to pay the medicine for the paludism, malaria, what is the name? Malaria, to pay malaria, and they in this case, if there are a lot of people having malaria, the malaria remain endemic. If you cure the malaria and the malaria reduce, the malaria disappear. Well, they haven't the money to pay the malaria, to buy food and so on, and they make a lot of sons. This is the one side of the question. The other is the development, because for example, now in Congo there is no animals, because they eaten all animals, because they are hungry, of course. Because the economic model of Congo of Republic Democratic of Congo of today is not good for that population presence on the environment. The human beings are the only type of beings that are able to change the environment. For example, the natives of the North America, they live in equilibrium demographico. They were 30 million when arrived the European in the 16th century, and they controlled the demographic because they lived because, for example, the buffaloes must be a number and so on. Now we are enough people to change the model, and if we grow, we have to change more. If the changement is blocked by globalization, by bad rule, by the financial speculation, and so on, the situation is out of control. This is is enough.
Balance is lost.
Please.
I guess I was listening to the three things that need to happen. You mentioned one was the Glass-Steagall, then the second one was the Bretton Woods, then the third one was the BRICS. And it seems to me, understanding the politics of the first two, that's never going to happen. So it seems to me that the only solution to the fix that we need to improve the world economy would be this situation with the BRICS playing a bigger role in the world finance. So I guess I'm asking you, what kind of things should we be looking for in the next 3, 6, 12 months that would show that the BRICS arrangement is making progress toward being a solution to counter the Western finance?
Yeah. Well, the second thing is one solution. I mean, without the comeback to the Glass-Steagall is not possible to have a solution. So the first thing is the Glass-Steagall. The second thing is a new Bretton Woods, I said. But if it's not possible an agreement among United States, China, and so on, we have the third thing to do. That is another solution. Is a choose between two solutions. Because if we arrive to a new Bretton Woods with the United States, with Europe, with Western world, very good, and but we don't. So there is the other possibility that the BRICS itself self-organize to arrive to a new Bretton Woods. I mean, of real investors, states, and the communities. I mean, and I think in the next 6, 9 months, less than a year, we will see a big improvement of this solution. I mean, led by BRICS. I see every day, every month, some changement. For example, the Bank of France has arranged an agreement with the Bank of China to use renminbi and euros instead of dollars. And after the United States made a fine to the French industries who sell armaments, the Mistral is a ship to transport helicopters and amphibious means to the Russian. Every month every week we have something that bring to a solution in the sense we said before.
So I guess maybe,
If the United States make a revolution, Europeans make a revolution, we are better. But if not, BRICS, I think, are making a revolution.
so I guess maybe the message should be is when we talk to our representatives, our congressmen, our TV stations, our media, we say, we know this is going on with this BRICS and the new trade arrangements. Why aren't you reporting it? Why aren't you doing so? You know, so I think that's the kind of thing that we need to see, is that we know the reality, we're not hearing it, we're not seeing it. So
Depends. Sometimes a situation evolves rapidly. I think the speed of the changement will be higher in the next month, 6 months, 9 months. There is the change. Please.
As members of LaRouche PAC under Linda LaRouche, we know that there is a British imperialist push towards thermonuclear war. The setup, as in 1914, 2014, the setup as in 1914 is one of covering up the economic problems, the destruction of countries and sovereignty and that kind of thing, by starting wars. And we also know that President Obama is an agent, puppet, I don't know what else you want to say, of this British imperialistic empire. In the United States, it's very difficult to get people to understand that we need to impeach President Obama to get to any of the solutions that you're talking about, Glass-Steagall, or the Bretton Woods, which Linda LaRouche also introduces, the credit system that the United States was actually built on through the Hamiltonian credit system, and then of course the BRICS. We know that all three of these things are what's needed. What is also needed is to move President Obama out of the way. How did your people see President Obama? How do they see the United States as far as getting rid of this imperialistic British Empire puppet, and can they help us do it? I mean, there seems to be a lot of things going on in Europe that they have capitulated to this problem and kind of looking to the United States to introduce Glass-Steagall, to get Glass-Steagall back, and we're working on it. But how do other countries, since you're from another country, how do you and your population and your politics, how do they see getting rid of President Obama as an impediment to all of these things that we're talking about for the recovery, and not just the recovery, to prevent world war? You know, I'm kind of curious as to how other countries view this movement towards Third World War and this Obama problem.
Well, of course, there is a British influence in these facts. Think in the recent past to Iraq dynamics, no? That the British invented the existence of biological and chemical weapons to ensure the attack to Iraq when Saddam Hussein was a dictator, but was the leader of the only not religious countries, and the attack of British and big financial powers on the states is clear. and they have arrived to a result, I think, to my country, for example. But because they aren't able to produce a solution, we must come back to think that work. And about Obama, I agree with you, what you have said. But think that if there is Obama to the White House, into the White House there are the officers that not always are exactly on the same position of Obama itself. And in the recently, when we fear an attack to Syria or to Iran by the United States or the British forces, the same intelligence service of Israel and the military vertici, the headquarters of the United States said to not, it's not sustainable an attack to Syria and to Iran for the consequence of this. So there are balancing of the power, but the people must explicate his position, voting and with other manifestation of will. The peace is not a result of the providence gift. It's not a providence gift. It's a struggle against the war. The peace is the result of the popular effort against the war, all around the world. Well, please.
Besides your name, I think, within our organization, another name that over the decade, we've heard a lot about is, and I believe he was the finance minister of Italy for a period, Giulio Tremonti.
Yeah.
And you seem obviously very like-minded, very focused on the idea of development, growth, and I guess things that would, come naturally, work naturally for the development of human beings. I'm wondering, to what extent did the two of you collaborate in the government, and are you still in collaboration with him to this day?
Well, Tremonti is a friend, but is that people like Giuliano Amato and so on, that very, very good people when they are talking about things. When they are appointed like minister or prime minister, they change it all. For example, I met Giulio Tremonti last time, just when he was appointed the last time like financial economy minister. And I wanted to speak with him, and he, Nino, no speak. You don't need to speak, because you want 100, I want 10. And they say to me that 10 is too much. This is the question. I want 100. You understand? What?
Well, that is, I think, from what, and to sort of add to, I think, what Jessica mentioned earlier, that's one of the things that we see, I guess, from the benefit of this organization. Once we look at it, is that sort of, that's one of the, I guess, that's one of the attacks that's used by the British system to get people when they want to make real change. They say, well, you can't ask for too much too quickly. You have to take things slowly, and by slowly they mean, well, maybe you'll be able to barely feed yourself, as a population 1,000 years from now. That's their definition of slowly, so that is one of the...
Yes. In fact, Tremonti was going too slow, but in correct direction. And after they attacked to that Berlusconi government was because Italy was going in the good direction, but at the speed very ridiculous, but in the correct direction. After we have had Monti, that bring the country at the very high speed in the bad direction, and after him Letta, who reduced the speed to the catastrophe, thinking that if we go slowly to the catastrophe, perhaps France or Germany arrive before in the balance. And now Renzi want to change the direction because he says to fight the austerity, but because he want to change Europe rules is a contradiction. Will be straight in this contradiction between to exit by austerity and to remain in this kind of Europe. Okay.
Okay,
You.
good. Thank you.